film with the boys. Something slightly different. Because we're not building, are we?
No.
But we are collecting. And we're collecting from someone that does provide something that we build from. And Oscar has decided he would like to collect the...
Marvel Legendary Comics from Hachette.
Hachette, yeah. So we have got our first two. So you would have seen these before from Hachette. They've done a lot of, and Eagle Moss as well, have done a lot of these collections of hardback books, of graphic novels. And this isn't their first Marvel. They've done Marvel before as well. But the kid's getting into it now. I mean, he's more getting into his books. Before it was the movies and the cartoons, but now he's starting to enjoy the books a bit more. And I mean, personally, I've never bought into one of these because I pretty much own all these stories in comic form. So I've never felt the need to own the trades for them. But I think as a new collector...
yeah, they're really nice. I remember reading the Amazing Spider-Man one, just sat there on the sofa. It was the most relaxing thing ever.
Yeah.
There was no sound there.
And the one thing I will say as well, I mean, I've always enjoyed a trade paperback because when the comics used to come through, I'd never, I mean, you should wait until an arc finishes, then just read them all in one hit, but I'd never do that. I'd always kind of read month by month. So it is nice when you've got a collection of trade paperbacks or complete works, and you can just read the whole story or the whole arc. It is nice. It's really nice. And like the kid says, relaxing. I used to love doing that, and it's like they're a nice thing to have. And I think again, as a new collector, as somebody that was just starting on this journey, I've looked at the books that are in this collection, and they're really good. They're really good. There's gonna be some, there always is, but there's some really nice ones. There's some classics in here and a lot of new stuff, which I'm kind of looking forward to because, again, I said I wasn't going to buy it because I have read most of these. However, number 3 is Loki, which is Agent Asgard. Yeah, no, I never read that. So I will. When that comes through, I'm going to give that a read. But we'll take a look at the books and we'll let you know what we think of them. So, why don't you tell us about New Ways to Die, Oscar?
New Ways to Die is the first issue. Apparently, from what I read, it's the first appearance of the Anti-Venom.
It is the first appearance of Anti-Venom. Anti-Venom was like the white and black Venom, wasn't he, rather than the black and white Venom? Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, bearing in mind I read this maybe 12 years ago. Doesn't he try to cure Peter Parker?
Yeah.
He detects the spider.
The symbiote still in him.
Yeah.
And the reason he's trying to cure Spider-Man at the moment is because he gets cancer from the symbiote.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want that to happen to Spider-Man.
But isn't he taking the stuff that makes Spider-Man out of his blood?
He's taking the stuff that makes Spider-Man his blood. Anyway, apparently from what I read, Green Goblin's supposed to be dead, Norman Osborn.
That's right.
He comes back, and it's now like President, I think.
Yeah, President Osborn. In this one, is Menace in this one?
Yes. Menace literally beats the hell out of Norman Osborn. And
does Mr. Negative appear in this as well?
He does appear in it, but he's sort of like good guy at the moment.
So those of you that have played the PlayStation game of Spider-Man with Mr. Negative in, it was here. This is where he came from. He came from this story arc, and this came after Brand New Day. Now,
what's Brand New Day?
See, you won't remember Brand New Day. Amazing Spider-Man had been running for a long time. I mean, someone's going to correct me, I'm sure, but born. Yeah, of course it was before I was born, but it had been running for so long that I think Marvel were concerned at the time that they were going to have problems finding people to start reading the book because that much had happened. So the version of Spider-Man, it's not that it wouldn't make any sense. I think what it was the newer audience that were coming to it were being fed this Peter Parker from 30 years ago. So the Peter Parker that's been portrayed in movies was 15 years old, awkward high school kid. You know, he'd struggle with things. But the Spider-Man in the books was like my age. He'd been married to Mary Jane for years. He was a.
Yeah.
I think at the time he was
In the first issues, though, wasn't he like?
He was a kid. Yeah, he was a kid. But I mean, he'd aged. So I think what it was Marvel were concerned that we're selling this version of it that's wildly successful and making a lot of money. People are going to jump on to get the comic books, and what they're going to get is who's this middle-aged man that's now Spider-Man. So they basically reset the universe. They reset the Spider-Man universe, and they used a story with Mephisto in it, where he could have Aunt May back. I think Aunt May had just died.
As long as
he gives
it his marriage with MJ.
Yeah, so that never existed. So it was like a full reset. So, and it drove a lot of people mad. A lot of people hated it. And it was like it reset the universe, and a lot of long-time devoted Spider-Man fans went mental. I can remember there were videos of people burning their copies of Brand New Day.
Why would they do that?
In protest. But I might be wrong. I think a mint copy of Brand New Day is actually worth quite a nice bit of money, isn't it?
Exactly.
But
I mean, imagine how rare that is. Like, you're never going to see...
It just upset a lot of people. Right, now... I've always been a bit, let's see how it goes, because whenever Marvel do a reset, they typically end up resetting the reset. So I'm thinking, let's just see how this plays out. So I didn't really have an issue with it. And I got to admit, I quite liked the stories that came from Brand New Day. I enjoyed them. There was some... Mr. Negative was a good addition. There was a character called Paper Doll they introduced. She was good as well. You know Paper Doll?
Yeah, doesn't she like this actor?
That's right.
He's dating MJ.
That's right. Paper Doll, yeah.
She doesn't get over him.
It was good, but New Ways to Die was one of the kind of the key stories of that very early run after Brand New Day, and I enjoyed it. I remember reading this. Now,
yeah, I did enjoy that one too.
This is one of the last Spider-Man books I read, and the reason why is because this came out in 2009, which was shortly before I stopped collecting. I've been collecting since I was younger than him, but I stopped in 2009 because something happened in 2010, which means I couldn't collect anymore. What happened in 2010, Oz?
I was born.
He was born. So I've got him instead of a comic book collection. I'm not convinced I made the right choice. But he's what I've got. So, I mean, realistically, it's like I couldn't afford to keep buying the books the way I used to. Yeah, we got the kid instead. So I do have an absolute ton, but this was one of the very last arcs I read. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I really did. So again,
there was some major fight scenes in that book. I really enjoyed them. There was this one with Scorpion fighting Anti-Venom.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
The one thing I can show you in this book as well, which shows a trend that started to come in more and more, which I don't know, you either love it or you hate it, was I remember this vividly as well, was in the back of this book, it shows you all of the variant covers. Now, Marvel went, I mean, look at them. Marvel went variant mad. I mean, it got to a point where every book had at least 3 or 4 variants. I don't know if they're still doing that. I'd be willing to bet they are. But I'm a sucker for a variant, which was another reason why I couldn't keep collecting comic books. But, yeah, the Brand New Day era Spider-Man, I quite liked it. Some interesting stuff happened as well, because, I mean, in that time, Obama was elected president, and there was President Obama featured in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So I've got that. I've got the Barack Obama cover. I think I've got 3 Barack Obama covers, because they did, like, there was a blue one, a yellow one, and I can't remember. I don't know. But they did a bunch of them, and then the standard edition. And there were a lot of the time. I've got a variant cover around about that time with Marvel Zombie on it.
Yeah, isn't that for a New Ways to Die one? Because
it might be.
That one's in my room now. It's with
there you go.
Spider-Man jumping on the zombie Green Goblin.
There you go. Yeah. And I got there was a Stephen Colbert variant. I've got that as well, believe it or not. There were a bunch, but I liked it. And again, I mean, I think this is a worthwhile edition, and I'm sure, again, if you haven't read it, this is actually a really good book. It's a really good story.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. That's issue 1. Now, along the spines of these, there are images that when it all goes together, it will make one image. Now, they don't give you these books in sequence.
No.
So even though this is the first one released, it's not number 1.
It's number 59.
It's number 59. So,
yeah.
and it's the same with Book 2, which is Avengers Disassembled, again, kick-ass book, it really is.
Great book.
Is 35. So this is the second release they've done. This is the one that came out last week, and this is Avengers Disassembled. And again, this, I remember reading this. This goes back to 2004.
I enjoyed this book.
And it's a precursor to House of M. So again, if you are relatively new to this world, and you've just watched WandaVision, for instance, where Wanda's gone a little bit
cuckoo crazy.
Yeah. It's borrowed heavily from these, because Wanda, I mean, ultimately turns villain during this run,
Apparently,
and turns back to villain.
Apparently she was never a good guy.
She wasn't really. I mean, they sort of come in and out, but she this is where she mentally breaks in this one.
Yeah, because from what I read, everyone kept reminding her of children.
Yeah.
And then she goes ahead and screams at Agatha Harkness.
That's right.
Where are my children, and kills her.
Yeah. So this is what happens in this one. So this was a precursor to House of M. So House of M was, again, it was a massive crossover event that they did, where it was this weird kind of multiverse, similar to what you get in WandaVision, where everything was different. So
in Disassembled, she kills her husband, Vision. I think her best friend, Hawkeye, I know he dies.
Mm-hmm.
And she kills Ant-Man. Ant-Man's death was brutal, though.
Yeah. In House of M, House of M, the whole world changed, so everything was kind of weird. There was a different version of Hulk in that one. He was like Aborigine Hulk. He was hanging out with Aborigines in Australia. He had a bald head, and it was markings they put on him to keep him kind of zen. So there was that version of him. There was
like World War Hulk.
Kind of like World War Hulk, yeah, but World War Hulk was just furious. But so there was that one. There was Spider-Man was different as well at the time. I can remember he was hanging out with the guy that was going to become Rhino.
He was married to Gwen Stacy.
He was married to Gwen Stacy.
He had a child.
So it was all a bit unusual, and eventually they defeat Wanda in House of M, and she did the No More Mutants, where the 198 came. There was only 198 mutants left, which again is a Marvel reset. I think Marvel look at how many mutants. I mean, at one point in the X-Men, there must have been nearly 3,000 X-Men, and I think the reason why they do it, and they go, we need to thin this out, and then you're left with a handful.
Lots of stuff happened in No More Mutants. I mean, Cyclops and Iceman were fine, because Iceman just got his body back. He couldn't create ice, and Cyclops could take the glasses off. But Wolverine, when he popped the claws, his hands were messed up. The wounds would not heal.
Yeah.
So he just had holes in his hands.
You don't lose all the bits that have been bolted to you. You just lose your healing ability. Now, if you collect all of these books, the spines go together and they make this one large picture. If you subscribe, there is an option to get an additional 6 books. We're not doing that. We're not doing the premium subscription, because those additional 6 books I don't think are worth the value that they're asking for them. So we're not doing that. We are just buying this through regular channels. And you were about to pick this up in WH Smith's. We've been picking it up in Asda at the moment. Now, it's one every 2 weeks, but they claim this is going to run for 100 issues. Again, anyone that's ever done these books knows full well that they never stop at 100 issues. If it's selling well, they carry on going to 110, 120. Now, because you only get one every 2 weeks, to complete this collection is going to be about 4 years. It is. That's going to be about a 4-year collection. But again, I don't think that's bad. I think one of these every 2 weeks, I think they're 11 quid, which again is a good price, because I recently bought you that Morbius book.
Yeah.
I recently bought the kid a Morbius paperback, and it was, a couple of issues in a trade paperback, and I paid $9.99 for that. So I honestly don't think 11 quid for a hardback is bad at all. I think it's really good. Anything that gets a kid reading, and anyone tells you that reading comic books isn't reading, is kind of a dick. It's kind of a dick, because reading comic books definitely is reading. It's just a different medium. Just because it's not all black and white doesn't mean it's not viable. These are fantastic stories. They always have been, and that's why anybody that's been reading this for a long time knows, and it's quite humorous when the rest of the world jump onto the MCU and be like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, I know, we've been reading it for like 30 years, we could have told you that. But it's we've been getting that good shit for a long time. These people are just coming to it now, so it's funny. But anything that brings people to our world, man, is good. And again, this is just a nice way to build a collection. If you wanted to get into the comic books, you're thinking, where's good jumping on points? These are good jumping on points. They're contained books. And also at the back of these, for example,
they've got
they give you,
they tell you
where else you can go. So it's kind of like if you'd like to read more up about them. So these two at the top are two more that are coming. So we can see that New Avengers Breakout and House of M will be in this collection. And then over
here, the new ones coming would be The Amazing Spider-Man, The Spider-Verse, and
World War Hulk.
World War Hulk.
World War Hulk is actually great. Now, the kid thinks he's read World War Hulk. He hasn't.
I have.
You haven't.
I have.
You haven't.
Oh wait, not World War Hulk. I read Planet Hulk.
See,
I read Planet
World War Hulk is awesome, right? Now I was quite happy to see that because World War Hulk is a kick-ass book. If you've read Planet Hulk, you'll really like World War Hulk, because at the end of Planet Hulk, it ends with the planet being destroyed. Hulk's found kind of peace where he is, and the planet gets destroyed, and he ends up going back to Earth to get revenge. Lost his wife.
He was king.
He was king. He goes back to Earth to get revenge on the Marvel Illuminati that did this to him, and his revenge is spectacular. The things that he does to them is brutal. Absolutely brutal.
He crushes Iron Man in his Hulk.
He does crush him in the suit. The worst thing he does is what he does to Mr. Fantastic.
Oh yeah,
he just sees how much he can stretch him. How much can I stretch you before you tear? And it's like, oh, and it is, it's nasty. But
what he does to Wolverine is quite bad too.
Yeah, or he just shakes his head.
Yeah, and his brain turns to mush.
Turns to mush. So, I mean, we can give you an idea of some of the ones that are coming up in this. So, on the Spider-Man side of things, Craven's Last Hunt, kick-ass book is coming up in this, as is Spider-Verse. On the Avengers side, Avengers Disassembled, which you've had. Ultron Unlimited, again, that was a great book. The Scarlet Witch side about House of M, and The Children Crusade, Captain Marvel, Love In Pursuit of Flight, Higher, Further, Faster, More. Loki, now, again, I'm interested in this because I never really read Loki. Loki, Agent of Asgard and Siege. Thor, The God Butcher. The God Butcher is a kick-ass book. And also, the reason why it's good is because, if I'm right, The God Butcher is in the new Thor movie.
Yeah.
So that would be a good one. Fear Itself as well. Fear Itself was an amazing book. On the Winter Soldier, you've got the Winter Soldier book. You've also got The Longest Winter. Again, I wasn't the biggest Winter Soldier guy, so I mean, I'd be happy to. I don't hate him, but it wasn't.
Nice.
It wasn't a book I read.
Not my favourite superhero.
No. On Iron Man, you got Armor Wars, damn good book. And Stark Disassembled. On Black Widow, you got Itsy Bitsy Spider, Name of the Rose. On Wolverine, you got Wolverine Origin, awesome book. And Weapon X, which is
Deadpool in Origin, and Sabretooth.
I'm not going to tell you. In Weapon X, yeah. Black Panther, you get Enemy of the State and the Client, and Thanos as well as in this, which I suppose is capitalised on the popularity of the movies. The Infinite Gauntlet. So you get the book The Infinite Gauntlet, and you also get the Thanos Imperative. So that's just some of the books that have been in this collection. As I said, there's 100 that are planned for it. But we're only 2 in, and I mean, you're enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
But we got a deal. If he doesn't read the book, he doesn't get the next one. So that's the way this is. So he's going to read. I'm not just going to buy these books for them to look pretty on a shelf. You got to read these books.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a problem because you absolutely powered through these two, didn't you?
I remember the first one with New Ways to Die. When I was on the sofa reading it, I was like halfway through it, and that one afternoon, within like 2 hours, I finished it. So.
Yeah, it's good that you're enjoying them, man. And like I said, I'm happy to encourage you to read and definitely to get into Marvel.
And with Avengers Disassembled, I think it took me like 2 days to finish it. So
I mean, the thing is as well is what it gives you is because you enjoy the MCU, it stops a lot of who's that syndrome that a lot of people get. I mean, we got a lot of people that I love Marvel. Is that you read a book? No, okay, you like Marvel, you like the MCU. It stops. I think whenever a new movie comes out, people go, "Who is that?" You're like, "Well, you should know." You know, it's that kind of, so it's fine. It means it knocks someone on the head. I mean, I still get that when it comes to, I've been reading these for years, but there's still characters appear in those movies. I go, who the bloody hell is that? Because it's like, I'll openly admit, Eternals, never had
I had no clue.
Any interest in the Eternals. I never bought a single, I mean, I own literally thousands of comic books. And I know I've seen the Eternals pop up from time to time in different things, but there was never really a main book. I don't think someone's going to tell me I'm wrong, but I certainly don't remember the Eternals being anything of any relevance that people would buy en masse. So it was kind of a weird one to make. But then Guardians of the Galaxy was exactly the same. And I defy anyone to tell. I don't think it was terrible, but no one bought it. And I defy anyone to tell me, oh no, I always read Guardians of the Galaxy. No, you didn't. They didn't look anything like they looked like in the movie. And it wasn't a popular book. So Guardians of the Galaxy was the sort of thing that would be introduced. It would run about 12 issues and then get cancelled. Like what they do with Blade. Blade comes and goes. I've never known a book get cancelled more times than Blade. About every 3 or 4 years, they relaunch Blade. It runs for 6 months to 12 months, and then they cancel it. Always. And that was the same. And so I was aware of Drax but no, it wasn't a book anyone gives a damn about.
I knew the Guardians existed because when the movie came out, because I watched an old Spider-Man show where they made 1 or 2 appearances.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were friends with Nova.
Well, I mean, again, and this is the thing. I think the MCU have done all the big hitters. The big hitters are now done.
No, they haven't.
Who haven't they done?
X-Men. Or Fantastic Four.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying. There are films. There are films of those that exist. So they did do the Inhumans.
Not Black Bolt and all that.
They did do that. There's a show that was made by that was made by Marvel Studios.
There's a show on the Inhumans?
Yeah, it's not very good, but there is one.
Oh, that's why it's not.
There you go.
I've not heard it.
So the big hitters are done, which is why you're now seeing people like Moon Knight. Now, again, if you're in this community, you know who Moon Knight is. He's a big character. If you're not in this community, Moon Knight wasn't something that appears on kids' t-shirts, you know? So it's not a known character. And there are a bunch of those. I mean, there's a Werewolf by Night Halloween special this year.
Isn't that with Punisher?
I don't know. It might be.
Do you know what I hope they don't do? I hope they don't do Punisher as
Frankencastle.
No, straight away.
They might.
Because Punisher, the way I've seen him, I've never seen him as Frankencastle. I've only ever seen him as
the Punisher.
The Punisher, yeah.
Yeah, but this is what it means. They're having to scrape the barrel now. So we are and it's why Agatha Harkness gets her own TV show. You know, because the big characters are done. So Marvel are now having to find make properties out of the smaller characters. And they definitely can, because there is a wealth of stories there, but it's getting the audience to know who these people are.
And soon, before you know it, by the time I'm like 70, all the Marvel characters will be done and gone. Probably through the movies, but we never know.
Well, they'll just reboot it. At some point that's going to happen. At some point they're going to pull the plug and reboot. But whilst those films are still making $1 billion every time they release one, that ain't happening anytime soon. When they get 3 or 4 of those big movies in a row, bomb, and not make money, they'll be like,
they're going to start making films about villains, like.
Well, they already have. Kraven the Hunter is coming next year. There's a Kraven the Hunter movie coming next year, so they already have, and you'll get the Thunderbolts, which is like the Marvel version of the Suicide Squad. Anyway, I think that's about all we've got to say about that for this time.
Wait, I have one more thing to say.
Go on then, say it quick.
With the first issue, it came with this.
You do get a poster with issue 1.
I don't think it's that bad for 11 quid. You get.
Well, it was $1.99. I mean, UA site is still available. $1.99, which is an absolute bargain. And you get this very huge poster. And really rather lovely it is too. But that's it for this week. We will be back next week, because on the 16th, part 3 of this is out. We will be getting it, and it is Loki, Agent of Asgard. So we will then tell you all about Agent of Asgard, give our review of it, show you some of the pages, and let you know what we think. So, in a world where you can be anything at all, what are we going to be?
Be kind.
We're going to be kind. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.